Hi, Gail King from Looking to Make a Difference with Gail. Over the last few months, a few people have been writing me and asking, what is your background, Gail? I know you as a talk show host. I've seen you perhaps doing some modeling. I know that you're a SAG actress. Where did you come from and how did this come about? Actually, I was a high school and college English teacher for almost 36 years. And when I retired, I did some volunteer work in a hospital, and I heard about a pageant. And I entered it, and lo and behold, by surprise, I actually won it, went on to win the national, and that opened the door for so many different opportunities. I also am a speaker at many different events, and I love to share my stories with other people. And that's pretty much how this show came about. If you follow my show, you'll know that I have themes. Today's theme is Conquering Cancer, and look at them today. I'm talking about survivor thrivers. Today you're going to meet a photographer extraordinaire by the name of Madigan and a professional athlete, Derina Wilson. But before we do that, I want to share with you my own personal journey in the hopes that this too will help you. I had cancer 47 years ago, and I want to start by saying that cancer did not define me. It's something that I had. It's not who I am. Everyone's experience with cancer is unique, and mine is no different than that. At 25 years old, I was up for tenure in a school. I had bought a house and I'd been recently married. And it was a time of learning not only about myself, but also a time of some stress. I hadn't been feeling well. Now, again, everyone's case is different. One of the things that I learned is that we know our bodies better than anyone else. I knew something was amiss. I was exhausted. Hair was falling out. I was getting rashes. Ironically, it was my students who first noticed that. I was taking graduate courses at Stony Brook University in the evening, and I went into a class, Women in Literature, and Professor Sally, who was quite a character, with her cigar and her big hats, she probably will never know that that woman saved my life. I thought that I would take notes, go home, transcribe them, and figure them out the next day. I was really just so tired to even copy the notes, knowing that I had the next day get up, go to school, teach again, and continue with my everyday activities. I looked up, and there was Professor Sally drawing these two big circles on the blackboard. People weren't paying attention. Picture, if you will, a class of about 500 people at Stony Brook. I copied these two circles, not even knowing what she was doing. And then she caught my attention. She said that a friend of hers had a situation where she went to a doctor and she ended up with breast cancer. Those two circles were breasts. And what she wanted to show us is how to examine your breasts to see if your breasts were free of cancer. People were still talking, but I went home. And that night, I sat in the bathtub listening to Barry Manilow. I took out the notes and I did the examination that she taught us to do. And lo and behold, I did find a lump. The very next day, I called the doctor, and the doctor said to me, I'm sure it's probably nothing. You have to understand, in 1975, nobody discussed cancer. It's not like where today people are talking about it. You didn't even have a mammogram at that time. We didn't have support groups. We used the word, and we didn't even say the word, we used the letter C. This was not something that you discussed. I went to 5 different doctors before I found a doctor who would actually sit down and talk to me about this. Many of them thought it was stress. Now, I understand that I did not fit the profile, and that's another lesson that we have to learn. No one in my family had cancer. I didn't smoke. I didn't drink. I was 25 years old. But that's a lesson that we have to know. You don't have to fit the profile. When the doctor put me into the hospital a few days before Easter, he was the one who broke it to me. Gail, he said, the chances were 10,000 to 1 that this would not be cancer. He said, if I were you, I would play lotto. And I looked at him. He had tears in his eyes. He had a daughter my age, and he was extremely upset. And we talked about all of this. Remember, this was a time where there were no computers, no cell phones, no cable TV. But it also was a time where I learned that I had to become my own advocate. I had to get involved. I had to take charge. Someone brought me a book during this time, and the newscaster was Betty Rowlands. She also had breast cancer. Her book was called First You Cry. That was the book that I was given. There was no other information, nothing on TV. The only other source that I did remember was Love Story, and we all know what happened to Ally McGraw. People will often write to me and say, Gail, what did you learn from your experiences? And I made a list of some of the things. After being in the hospital for some 3 weeks with infections and grafting, I learned that no one is immortal. Life is not always fair. Instead of asking, why me? Why not me? Cancer doesn't distinguish with your age, your sex, your background, or your politics. Anybody can have cancer. I learned to trust my instincts. I also learned that we need to know our body, we need to get involved, and we need to ask for help when necessary. Early detection always comes to mind. The other word that comes to my mind is the word gratitude. You might be wondering, why would I be grateful telling you something like this? Let me explain that even if you're in pain, you're still alive. And for that, you have to be grateful. When I was in the hospital, many people came to visit me, my colleagues. It was at a time in the 70s when people came. There was no hour for visiting. Doctors would come in. In fact, I had many, many visitors. There were people who brought me flowers. There were people who brought me magazines. The hospital in the 70s was good in that you could have as much company and fun, which helps heal you, by the way. But it was also not good because I would be exhausted. I remember my mother coming in and saying, look at the outfit you're wearing for 3 weeks. That's a disgrace. Remember the little nightgowns you have that open up in the back? And everybody's coming to visit me and I'm hooked up to machines. Well, my mother convinced a nurse to help me get out of this outfit, and even with all the machines and tubes, she got me a beautiful white peignoir set, and then we put a white ribbon in my hair and lipstick. My dad, tremendous man, my hero, he was always there for me. But when everybody started to leave after 3 weeks, people went back to school, they went back to work, the attention was dying out. My dad, who never lied to me, came in to visit me, and on his way out, I said, Dad, I have to ask you something. And he said, what, honey? And he turned around, and I said, you never lied to me. Am I going to die? And my dad looked at me, and he said, no. And I said, but Dad, how do you know this? And as he turned around, raised his fist in the air, he said, because I won't let you. That was an incredible turning point for me. That man believed in me, and that got me going. I have to thank Winston Churchill, whose philosophy is, I'll never give up. Now, Winston Churchill and I have something in common. I taught English. Winston Churchill, for those of you who don't know, failed English in 7th grade 3 times, but he never gave up. He was asked to give a speech at a beautiful Ivy League school. And at the speech, people were straining. They were leaning forward. They couldn't wait to see this man who was walking on stage with his walking stick. And as he looked around, he leaned forward and he said, never give up. And he stopped. And people leaned forward again. And he said, never give up. And he walked off the stage. That was his advice, and that's something that I've taken with me. I learned about Norman Cousins. Norman Cousins taught us that if you have laughter in your life and you surround yourself with pleasant people, you will suffer less with pain, and it can change your life. How true is that? Norman Cousins didn't have cancer, but he was told that he would die from a disease. And he lived 20 years after because of watching funny movies, telling jokes, and surrounding himself with positive people. So that is something that stayed with me, as is Dr. Bernie Siegel. What a great book. Love, Medicine, and Miracles. He asked this a very important question. What will this disease permit me to do? What will this encourage me? What will I end up doing? What will I end up with? And for me, it was stepping outside the box. It was reinventing myself. And also, when I volunteered in 2 hospitals, I heard about a pageant. Now, I was not a pageant person. I'd never done anything like that. But I thought if I could write an article about it, it would be fun. Well, I went into this particular pageant, and my significant other, and I'll always thank him for this, went in with me. I made the finalists because they looked at your picture, they looked at your resume, they heard what you had to say. But when I walked in, I saw these women that were just incredibly talented, beautiful. And I thought, what am I doing here? But remember, step outside the box, reinvent yourself. It's time. And as I was walking in, I said to him, they don't know me. If I just continue to walk through the exit, they'll never know that I was even here. And he looked at me and he said, oh no, Gail, it's not about winning. It's the dignity of trying. People, the dignity of trying. I have since made, after winning the state and the national pageant, some 500 appearances across the country, sharing my different speeches based on the groups whom I had to speak before. This has definitely humbled me because of all the courage and all of the beauty of the people whom I have encountered who have fought this insidious disease. I would like to share with you in closing my philosophy of life. You must never give up, no matter what. This philosophy served me well when I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 25. After many surgeries, doctors gave me less than 30% chance of survival. But by keeping a positive attitude and by maintaining myself spiritually, physically, and emotionally, I fought this insidious disease. And because I refused to give up, I'm here today celebrating life. May God bless you. I love this quote, and I found it on Derina Wilson's Facebook page. There is a hidden message in every waterfall. It says, if you are flexible, the fall will not hurt you. I'm going to ask her in a few minutes to explain that to me. But let me tell you a little bit about Derina. So much here to even share with you. Ranked number 4 in the Arnold Schwarzenegger Sports Festival, professional athlete, bodybuilding, fitness. Look at some of the things that she is or has been involved in. Cheerleading. She received a swimming, a diving scholarship. She is a dance choreographer, been involved in fencing, gymnastics, volleyball, teaches and has taught Pilates, yoga, fitness. She's also a model who has her master's in physical education and many students who encouraged her to enter competition when she was in her 30s. Hi, Derina.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm exhausted already just having gone through all that activity. It's more than anybody could go through. Let's go back over that quote because I love that. I'll say it again. There is a hidden message in every waterfall. It says, if you are flexible, the fall will not hurt you. What does that mean to you? Why did you choose that?
I think through all of the adversity I've been through in the short time I've been on this earth, that it's all taught me something and has helped me to grow.
So you took adversity and from that you made it into more of a positive experience and grew from it. I love that. Age 12, you were preparing as an elite gymnast for the Bella Caroli Gymnastics, which was the Olympics.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you had a bad back and you weren't able to continue, but tell me a little bit about that.
So I started when I was about 6.5 years old. But really before that, I was like born a gymnast. I was really hyperactive.
Doing flips all over the place?
All over the place, all over the couch, all over the sidewalks, all over the tables, everywhere. So my parents figured they'd put me in a gym because it's safer, than doing it outside on the playground. So I competed for about 8 years, and I was 12 years old, and I started getting really injured. I broke my ankle twice, fractured it, tore a ligament. Sprained it over and over. I hurt my back during a competition, a regional competition. And also hurt my wrist, lots of different, fun.
Speaking of parents, you speak very highly in some of your articles about them.
Yeah.
I would love to have a memory from you about your parents that you could share to show people who and what they were.
Yeah. My parents are my best friends. They were my best friends. My mother passed away in 2017 from heart failure, and my father passed away in 2014 from kidney failure. My parents were always my biggest cheerleaders. They definitely encouraged my strength and flexibility and pushed me to always do what I loved, even as an adult with just being a gymnastics coach. They were fine with that if I was happy doing it. When I was done with gymnastics, they were done. It wasn't their dream, it was my dream. So if I wasn't happy doing it, they were done.
They weren't stage parents by any, this
Nope.
is something that you had
Yeah.
wanted to do forever.
Yeah.
Now, you joined competition in your 30s,
Yeah.
and I have this incredible photo that I have to share, and I have, of course, some questions about it.
Yes.
You had to have some concerns starting that late when everybody else had already been involved. Now, granted, you're very active, you've been in all kinds of sports, fitness, but now we're talking a little bit more about bodybuilding.
Yeah.
So what were some of your concerns and how did you overcome them?
So I started at 35. I'm now 40 years old, which was very late for someone to begin, especially in the fitness category. Fitness category is 2 parts, and you have to be physically fit and do your 2-piece bikini and walking and posing, as well as a maximum of a 2-minute long routine, which involves gymnastics and dance and crazy push-ups and arm balances and dance and stage presence. So starting that late, I was okay physically while doing gymnastics. Like I could do that in my sleep. I've been doing that since I was a baby.
Of course.
But the body has to play catch up with everybody else who's been competing for 10 to 15 years. So I never dieted in my life. Diet for bodybuilding is not a regular diet. Like
What is it like?
When
Tell
you're
us.
going to a wedding or a sweet 16 or something like that, and you're bringing your food with you. Like that's a diet.
Oh, so you had to be
Like-
very strict on what it is you
Very
do.
strict.
Okay. Now
Yeah.
with competition, I imagine it changes a bit too.
Yeah.
What do you increase? What I think I read something about you don't take that much water, which
Yeah.
surprised me. What is that all about?
Yeah, you start with a lot of, it's, definitely a lot of protein, lots of vegetables, lots of good carbs, and just limiting, you're limiting no dairy. Like no dairy,
But why water?
no sweets.
Why water?
But water at the end, of course, I'm drinking like a gallon
Right.
up to.
Of course.
And then about a week before, I start increasing it to 1.5 gallons. And then you start to take the water away. You go to a liter, and then it's a regular, Poland Spring bottle or natural chill bottle. And then you go to like the small bottle like that on stage day because you're sucking all the water out. And I'm usually by, peak week, they call it. I'm eating whitefish and either asparagus or cucumbers. It's like a diuretic. So
gosh.
everything you're in the bathroom a lot.
And I'm trying to get rid of having that big sweet tooth. And
Yeah,
look what
and your
you're-
skin, my coach, Lena, calls it shrink wrapping. And when you take the water away, because a lot
Yes.
of bloat, happens in the
Right,
waterway, so
right.
your skin just tightens.
Wow. What
Yeah.
about wrinkles, though? We don't want to get wrinkles.
No wrinkles.
It won't happen that
No
way. Okay,
wrinkles.
just
No
asking,
wrinkles.
just checking.
No,
just
we
checking.
put makeup.
Okay. Well, these are important questions. Now, what I like so much and about the way that you look, and this is with the Arnold Schwarzenegger, if you can see in the bottom of the picture,
Yes.
what I really like is that you don't bulk up. When you hear bodybuilding, not the fitness, but bodybuilding, you think of, I have to say this, I think of it, steroids, etc. So tell me a little bit about that and educate us with that.
Well, it's funny because I've always been called muscular, and a lot of men, when they see me, like especially when I am in a suit and, you know, big, they say brolic, and I don't like that term because I'm not a man, and I'm 5'1", you know, I'm 5'1", and I'm 100, you know, on stage, 110 pounds. How can I be brolic?
Right.
You know, I'm just proportioned to my body.
Correct.
Yeah, so it's all about proportions and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it's
but
just
no steroids, because
No.
people have this image.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of inside things going on.
But
there
no.
are natural shows where I think they do actually test. But in the IFBB, there's, you know, it's
This is definitely not brolic.
out there. No, it's not brolic.
As I hold in my stomach and
They
sit up a
do
little
say,
straighter.
they do have a comment, which I always get very happy when they say, like, I have a feminine look.
Absolutely. Okay, that's important to know too. And when do you cheat? What kind of foods do you do when you do?
yeah.
Or do you cheat?
I cheat. Well, yes, I was allowed a cheat day up until last week because I'm 5 weeks out of the Olympia in Las Vegas.
One day you're allowed?
I was allowed one cheat meal a week for like 3 weeks, but then now, no. But when I do cheat, I love myself some pizza, pepperoni pizza, and I love anything chocolate with peanut butter, Reese's especially.
And even that's not so bad. Am I right? Peanut butter
Not so bad.
and
Not so
chocolate?
bad, but maybe 12 of them.
All right. You heard it here. How do you stay motivated? Because that's difficult. I mean, to have that kind of discipline.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it. No, I can't.
No.
So how do you stay that motivated? What does it for you?
So there's a group of fitness athletes that are my fitness sisters who live throughout the entire world, who we all follow each other and send messages back and forth. Yeah.
It's a support group.
Yeah, who we all know the challenges of being injured, having real lives and real jobs, and competing for an international competition that's going to be in Planet Hollywood, right on the Strip. I'm like, so we keep up, you know, tabs on each other.
You call each other,
Ask
you
how
watch
they're
each
dealing.
other on Facebook
I
with
see
each
their
other.
workout. I see them doing
Okay.
this. I'm like, oh man, I got to step up my game. Okay.
That's fabulous. And also, I think you look at you here with your baby.
Yeah.
Tell me about your baby here.
That's for Bully Girl magazine, and I was asked as an athlete, and I'm actually the only athlete who had a bulldog. So this is my black English bulldog. He's a rescue, and right now he's 6.5 years old, and he's just recovering from IVDD surgery. He ruptured a disc in his lower back, and his back legs went paralyzed. So now he's in recovery. I'm actually having a wheelchair built for him because he is my fur baby son, and I'll do anything for him.
Before we talk about your journey with cancer, I asked you before if this was okay to speak about. You were kind enough because people tend to think we're all up here. You're a celebrity, you're in magazines. Let's show that picture in the magazine. You're all over the place, you're winning awards. You just took a second place.
Yeah.
I mean, this is phenomenal. But we don't all start up here. Sometimes we can go down a little bit. Let's show this picture.
Yeah.
And then I want to talk a little bit about the fact that you had a little bit of a bout with depression. You were not happened. And how did you get out of it so that somebody else watching can hopefully do the same?
So when both of my parents passed away, I had noticed that I had symptoms, or I had symptoms after my father passed away. And I wasn't saying anything to my mother.
What were your symptoms, if I may ask?
I had a lump, I had pain, and I had blood discharge from my nipple.
Nipple, okay.
And I was hiding my bras because they were stained, you know. So I didn't want my mom to see, so I was washing it in the shower, you know, because she's dealing with her own grieving of her husband passing, my father passing. So I was not saying anything.
Incredible time for you.
Yeah.
Traumatic and just...
Yeah, it was hard. So I didn't want to say anything, and I was coaching gymnastics. And when I gave up coaching gymnastics, I took a big pay cut. So I moved back in with my mom, and I was caretaker for both of them a while ago.
Financially, you're having that too.
Yeah. So when I gave up that job, I gave up my health insurance. So prior, I went to my breast doctor. Why can't I think of the word? Not my oncologist.
The oncologist.
Yes. The oncologist, and he said no.
I
was going to say it. That's why I was like no. So I went there, and at first he just said that they were, you know, cysts. They were benign.
Which is what most women do have.
And I had very cystic breasts. Yeah.
I also cystic breasts.
Yeah.
Correct.
Especially during menstruation.
So people who are women who are afraid, or men.
Yeah.
I've met men with breast cancer who are leery about it. Most of the time, it is just cystic.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I let it go, and he said to come back within, you know, a couple of years to get it checked out, and I didn't.
A couple of years or a few months?
No, he said
a couple of years.
Yeah, because he wasn't worried about it. He wasn't worried about it. My age, yeah.
Okay.
So when I came back at 38 years old, I think that was 35. I was 35 then, and I went back I was supposed to go back a couple of years, and I waited another year. Longer. Yeah, and he told me that my milk ducts were dilated, and that he was thinking that I was going to have my milk ducts removed. So if I had kids, I wouldn't be able to breastfeed. And I was like, all right, take them.
Yeah, okay, right.
Whatever. I heard it's overrated.
Okay.
You know, so I'm thinking, okay.
That would be it.
Yeah. So I went by myself to the doctor, thinking that it's no big deal. And I go in there, and he sits me down, and he says, you have cancer. You have stage 1,
I can't even imagine.
Poorly differentiated, you know, breast cancer. And I was like, what? What do you mean? What are you talking about? My milk ducts are dilated, you said.
This is what you said, and this is what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, no. So I was in that office for a good 2 hours, Dr. Mangiamelli.
Shocked. You're shocked. Did you know
but I was
ask,
in.
Or
no, I was in called rally mode. I call it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just said, I looked at him and I said, what do I have to do? What do I do? And he stayed in there for 2 hours with me.
Yeah, good
and he's so good. I knew everything that I had to know to explain to my sister, my sister-in-law, my aunt, my uncle.
Did you write everything down, by the way?
He wrote everything down. He wrote everything down and drew it out.
That's something
and drew pictures.
Yeah, I always mention to people that if you're going in for someone else, ask questions, write everything down. Some doctors will even allow you to tape them because you're confused.
Yeah.
But what a great doctor.
No, he sat alongside me, wrote everything down as saying it to me, even drew pictures and made diagrams.
But you had no idea. You were totally shocked
so it's just
this.
like, and telling me how much, you know, if I did chemo and radiation, if I did a lumpectomy, I would have to have chemo and radiation. If I did a double mastectomy, I would not have to have chemo and radiation. There might be some in my lymph nodes. If there are some in my lymph nodes, then I would have to have chemo and radiation, but I did not have any in my lymph nodes.
So you didn't, so you just had to have surgery. And did you have the implants immediately?
No, I had expanders put in and the drains put in for about 2 weeks. When I had the drains removed, every 3 weeks they were filling up the expanders. And then I had the expanders removed and the implants put in. But they were very shocked when they went in for my surgery. My first surgery, I had an allergic reaction to the rocuronium, the muscle relaxer. I blew up like a balloon, and my blood pressure dropped to 50/10.
Oh my gosh.
So I had to stop the surgery immediately, and he's a trauma doctor also, so he knew exactly what to do.
Yeah, the right doctor.
Yeah, so then I had to wait a month, you know, and so I was kind of sitting in limbo. Like,
of course.
I didn't know, they didn't know, you know, I was like big with the hospital. It was a big deal. That like me, 38 years old, this healthy girl, like almost died in our hospital.
Unbelievable.
Like we can't do this until we know exactly what's going on. So they went through the list of all the medications that they gave me, and lo and behold, it's the muscle relaxant, which I'm 80% like allergic to all muscle relaxants, which makes total sense. Because growing up with two sick parents, I had all muscle relaxants in the world. And if my back would hurt or something, right, or my knee would hurt, I'd be like, can I have a muscle relaxer? Ooh, projectile vomiting, lightheadedness. Yeah, it was like I did not react well. And now I know I'm allergic to it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'd like to show right now this beautiful video. It's called Phoenix Rising. Why the name Phoenix? That was also for your dad as well. Share that, please.
It's at my dad's celebration of life. My sister read the Phoenix Rising quote because that was just what we always thought he was. And now my whole theme of that, before I was diagnosed, was the Phoenix Rising as just like for me, you know, and my parents also. But then when I had to do it and I was diagnosed with breast cancer, it all, like it just made sense.
It made sense to you. It came together.
And now it's the song, you know, Rise Up is like the song of the whole pandemic, you know, the song from the commercials and everything.
So when you're doing that piece, it's
emotional for me. People backstage are crying.
Well, we're going to take a look at it right now.
Sport is amazing and what it gives to us, and every now and then sport can be exactly the medicine that we need. Our next competitor has allowed me to share something really important that she's experiencing with all of you, and what you're about to see is her way of making sure that life and all the force that it brings to us shines through. In 3 days, she is going to have a double mastectomy because she's been diagnosed with cancer. And this routine that she's going to share with you is a way for her to provide inspiration, because remember, we are being broadcast around the world, and there are people out there right now that need inspiration, that need someone who can show them how to fight. And ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome the one and only Derina Wilson.
Rise like the day, I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I will rise 1,000 times again, and we'll rise up. I like the waves will rise and we'll do it 1,000 times again.
Now, cancer did not define you, obviously. It's what you had. So what does define Derina Wilson?
Being happy with my work life, with my relationships, and with everybody around me. That's important.
Okay. I do like that a lot. I do. What is your philosophy of life?
My philosophy of life is try everything once. Try everything once. And variety is the spice of life. Don't get stuck to doing just one thing. That's boring.
Oh, that's good. Also a model, and I love this. Tell me about this picture.
Well, that's by Dennis Madigan. That's in the magazine, iFashion magazine. And Dennis Madigan is also a cancer survivor. So we collaborated together to make some wonderful shots.
And this is adorable.
Yeah. Isn't that awesome? I know, and this is the first time I did fashion like that also. And you know, I always wanted to be a model, and my sister and I used to pretend model when we were younger. And you know, Victoria's Secrets are not 5'1", but I always still was very adamant about being a model. No, I'm going to be a model. And then they had fitness models come out, and I'm like,
right, there you are.
I could be a fitness model, but now I'm 5'1" and I'm doing fashion modeling.
Isn't that amazing? And this is probably my favorite.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, how I love this. Tell me about that one.
I know, it's something that I would never pick out, you know, outfit-wise, but it totally fits just because it's art, you know? It just, to me, it's artistic, and I love the instant karma on the bottom. That just was there. That's not put in. That was the name of the boat. That wasn't put in.
That was actually
I'm like, that's the name of the boat. And just the colors and everything. And that day was just such a beautiful day.
Do you think that all of this had to happen to you? And I know it made you who you are, but do you believe that this was your destiny?
Yeah. I think it's been lots of ups and many of downs, but I think that, you know, that's the story.
What's going on?
I'm competing at the Mr. Olympia competition. It's like the Olympics of bodybuilding, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, Shaquille O'Neal, Mark Wahlberg will be there, all speaking. I know, and the Rock. I know, this is a big one. It's at Planet Hollywood Zappos Theater, December 17th to the 20th in Las Vegas. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's delightful. I knew I was going to love it when I met you.
Thank you.
And I do. Just a sweetheart. Thank you.
Thank you.
I live once, but if you're lucky enough, once is good enough. So states Dennis Madigan, photographer extraordinaire. Hi Dennis, how are you tonight?
Okay, how you doing?
So happy to have you on Looking to Make a Difference with Gail. I'm going to tell the audience a little bit of your background. 25 years of photography experience. He's the lead photographer for runway, fashion shows, fashion editorials, in the United States, in Canada, Belgium. He's also been the lead photographer for beauty pageants. I can't wait to hear about that. The fashion editorial shoots, magazines worldwide. I think you've even done billboards in the Philippines and also in New York.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
And he's also a cancer survivor of 29 years?
29 years.
Wow, wow. I have to ask you, though, about your quote. I'm going to say the quote again and ask you what that means to you, why you wrote that. You will only live once, but if you're lucky enough, once is good enough.
I like to be a positive person. I like to accomplish things, what I do. I never give up. And you live once and you keep on moving and don't look back.
I like that. Do not look back. Just keep going forward. And that really does tie in with your philosophy of life. You help the underdog, family's most important, stay strong, and never give up, right?
Right, that's correct.
And let's see if we can touch upon that within our interview. Now, I know that you were born in Manhattan, but then you moved to the Bronx and then to a small coal mining place. I guess a small town in Pennsylvania. How did that shape you in becoming who you are?
It was a small town. Everybody knew each other, and it was more family, country, and people took care of each other. People left the doors open at night and in the daytime.
You know, we did that too. We did that in Suffolk County, Long Island. Everybody knew everybody, and everybody, I don't know about this, but everybody was aunt and uncle. That's right, it was a form of
everybody
respect.
watched each other.
Everybody watched each
and
other.
Respected each other. Older people made sure they had their snow shoveled and lawns cut.
I think so. I love that.
It wasn't a job. It was something you would have to do to help someone else out.
And that shaped you and your life forever.
Exactly.
I'm sure. And then you moved to Manhattan again, 21 years old. Was that kind of a shock?
It was a culture shock to me.
Had to be. In what way?
It was diversity, which I loved.
Okay.
Moving into Manhattan, compared to where I was living before, and it just everything was at my fingertips. Everything was open 24/7. Compare I was where I lived, everything closed at 5
and
o'clock.
And how many people all of a sudden,
it was
right?
Thousands of people.
Shocking.
Yes,
that
exactly.
Big shock. and then you're back to Long Island. Now, you've always been in pretty good shape. You ask, how good? Okay, this is Dennis. I have to ask you about that because it's amazing. You started as a child, you were always very active. So let's talk just a little bit about this. How does somebody get started who may not be in as good a shape as you to begin with?
It's just one step at a time. You don't have to lift the heaviest weight. It's just exercise, bike riding, anything, just to keep your body moving.
With the gyms closed, what did you do? How did you exercise?
I had a couple dumbbells laying around, and I just did a lot of dumbbells and lifting tires and
bicycle riding, anything like
lots
that?
Lots of bicycle riding. Yeah.
Because I would be lost without the gym, and I think that would be the same for you as well.
And I just had to keep on moving it and find other solutions.
Okay.
Always finding other solutions. You can't say you can't do it. You got to keep on doing things.
You got to keep on doing it. What about food? Do you follow a particular diet? Because, you look like you do.
My wife keeps me on a diet.
And what kind of diet does she keep you on?
She keeps me on, try to keep me on her diet.
Well, do you like sweets? Are you into carbs?
Very, very little sweets.
That's
mostly fish and chicken.
Really?
Yeah. And we
do you
cook a lot.
Cheat days? No
cheat days? No,
yeah.
I don't even know what a cheat day is.
Wow, you're so into it. This is something that's been with you your whole life.
Right, exactly.
And you wouldn't give up a day of exercise at all either, right?
No.
Never.
Every day.
Well, the other thing I want to talk about now is your photography. Because I said that you are a photographer extraordinaire, and I meant that. You are very much into the details. You look at everything, and I think sometimes you look at it through, obviously, creative eyes. Mm-hmm. So how did you get started with that? Was that in high school?
When my daughter was born, I started getting into it. But during high school and when I was growing up, I always liked photography and outdoors and trying to create things.
Absolutely.
And she was my model when she was a baby and when she was playing sports. And that's how I started moving into the photography, is growing up with her. And one of my first jobs in photography was with the New York Power. And I didn't like the way their pictures looked on their brochures, and I went to the marketing department and says, "Can I shoot one of your games?"
Oh my!
She says, "I don't like the way your pictures are. I can do
said.
better." Yeah.
I could do better.
And they hired me right then and there.
Oh, that will.
And from then on, I was shooting for a couple of years for the New York Power. Got me to shoot some other the women's national team, and see these ladies grow and play in the Olympic sports and the Olympic Games, and it was amazing.
What camera did you start with?
A film camera. It was a Minolta, yeah, during the film, so I'd have to rush to the Walgreens or CVS to get the film developed, and then if the players wanted pictures, I would have to go in a city and rent a studio and make a bunch of 8x10s and 4x6s for batches.
Is there anyone that you admire in photography, or maybe a name that I would know, or anything like that?
No, I like to take a little bit off of this person and that person.
Is that what you do? And
right.
That makes you well-rounded.
Right, exactly.
So you're getting from everybody.
Exactly.
Can anybody become a photographer? I mean, can they self-educate themselves?
Technically they can, but if you have the creative eye, you can go anywhere you want. It's just about being creative.
You see things differently.
Yeah.
You do.
I always look for the inner thoughts of other people when I shoot them, and try to figure out something different from them that everybody else has already done.
That's what makes you so special. What's one thing you wish you knew then that you know now about photography?
I like to grow, so back then was baby steps. So more advanced. I'm always helping the people who helped me. People always help, and that's what I like to do, is helping other people who are in that same spot, who are taking those baby steps.
And that makes you better too.
Exactly.
It's like
because you're always learning. It doesn't matter how many years of experience you have, you're always learning something new.
What skills do you need in order to become a good photographer?
Just a creative eye.
The creative eyes.
Yeah, and get along with people if you're doing people, if you're doing landscaping.
Sure.
And if you don't want to get along with people, you go out and shoot the birds and in the landscape and no one bothers you. And it's just nice and quiet. It's nice to have that break once in a while and go to the beach and catch the sunset.
And you know what? I'm going to be showing these in a couple of minutes. And I'm going to show a few pictures of this, you know, because I know how much you're into. What makes a good photo?
Whoever likes it.
Really?
It doesn't have to be a good photo. It's a person.
So one person may just think it's wonderful, but for another person doesn't get it,
Right.
and that's okay with you.
It's okay.
What makes a photo powerful?
The person who really likes it, like detail. I like to get my detail.
So you don't
I like
have to
tell.
please everybody.
I like to tell a story when I do the picture.
You do tell a story. Let's hold this one up.
That one is in Rockport, Massachusetts.
Tell me a
And
little
I was
bit about
walking in
this.
a small little town, and I saw this light, and I saw the reflection off of it, and I says, no one ever sees that. They just walk by, and I like to look for the details, and I found it, and I started studying it and shooting it. And people are walking by and says, what are you looking at? And then they started
Really?
seeing what I was looking at, and then they wanted to shoot it too, which is pretty interesting.
And how about this one?
This one is in Roslyn Harbor. It was just the perfect timing at nighttime or when the sun's setting, and just
Colors play a big part
just
in your...
yes,
Yeah,
colors popping, and
they speak to you in this, right?
and that's just beautiful. And I had to take it to show other people.
What's the most important element, in your opinion, when taking pictures? Is it light? Because I know you can make people look good, and you can make people look not so good.
It's lighting.
It is the lighting, right? I mean,
The weather. That one was in Oregon, and that was pretty nice.
What about this got to you? What do you want
It
me to
was
see,
it
even
was
though I
the
know you-
hike. This was a dry bed. This was once filled with water, and it was
Really?
just dry, and it was just telling a story how everything was dry, and the log was just floating down, and all of a sudden it stopped because there's no more water there, and then there was snow in the background, even though it was like 70 degrees, 80 degrees, and you have the snow-capped
This
mountains.
I share with you. This has to be my favorite. I want to frame this and put this on my wall. This is extraordinary to me. Look at the beauty of the flowers and the freshness, and then you juxtapose it with something like an old car, a rusted car with the colors
Right.
and the combination. Tell me your story from this.
That was in Pennsylvania. Driving in the back roads of Pennsylvania, I went by a barn, and I stopped and asked the lady if I can take pictures of her barn, and she goes, a lot of people take pictures. I said, but these pictures I'll send to you. And I just liked that, how the car or the truck there, it told a story.
It does.
And it was just beautiful, just age and patina. And I sent her the pictures, and she loved her pictures.
I loved the flowers with it, because to me that's always like the freshness and beauty, which
Right.
won't last forever.
Right.
And then you look at the patina, the shine of the car. All right, now let's talk about fashion. I met you at Fanny Tussagan's,
Right.
right? International Fashion and Arts, and we love Fanny. And that's how I met you. We're giggling because there's always a story behind that. But why did you get into fashion? How did that come about?
Well, I belong to all these clubs in Long Island here for landscaping and birds, and we did a lot of trips with clubs. And I wanted to move on and started shooting people. So I don't know if you know Lloyd Crawford.
Yes, I fashion.
He invited me to go shoot a show, and I would be his assistant.
What a nice way to
Yeah,
start,
during
right?
Fashion Week, yes.
In Fashion Week.
Right, so I was shooting, and the designers liked my work, and Lloyd liked my work too, and that's how it all started.
And here's a picture of your daughter. Tell me a little bit about that one.
That's Horseshoe Bend in Arizona, and it's just beautiful. I have a designer in New York here that I asked if I can borrow a dress for some pictures out west, and he gave me this dress to take pictures of my daughter.
Beautiful.
And my daughter, she loves to be a model too.
Oh, she makes a great model.
And she has a creative eye also. So
It makes it even better.
Right.
You're right on the same page. Now, how do you select your models?
Sometimes they come to me. Most of them are by word of mouth. It's with designers and designers trying to collaborate.
What do you look for?
I look for people with heart who want to try. I don't want people who have been there and done that and they don't give 100% then after a while because they just go through the same routine. I'd rather teach someone new who wants to show and give up and work out things.
So you don't always pose them, or do they pose themselves?
I like to pose because I like to be creative.
I love this picture too, the colors.
Right.
I just thought this was extraordinary, the look on her face. Now, do you go that much in detail that you tell her to look a certain way?
I try to set her into a situation and give her a story to put her mind at thoughts.
What was the story there?
Well, I just want her deep in thoughts. I don't know what I told her because I shot so many models.
But at that particular moment, you'll come up with something.
Right.
And get it.
To set her in a mood. And not in a happy mood, but this one I wanted her in a translucent mood.
How has fashion changed over the years?
It changed a lot.
It changed a lot. In what way? Tell me specifically.
It changed in a good way because back then everybody had to be beautiful, tall, slim, but now the diversity is black, white,
height, weight,
curves,
and
everything. Exactly.
All right, and you like that much better.
I like the diversity.
It's more realistic. Is that what it is that appeals to you, or that you see beauty in all these different
I see beauty in everything.
Isn't that wonderful? And that's what makes you such a good photographer. I'm sure of it.
Right. I try to find the best out of someone, even though
you're looking at me, but you're in my eyes right now,
right.
And you're looking, and I can feel that, and I think that is that creative aspect. Okay, let's talk about you overcoming cancer. You said what, 29?
29 years.
29 years old.
September 1st.
Now you've always been in good shape.
Right.
And what happened? How did you know that you had a problem? Symptoms? What?
I had a hard time swallowing my food. And I was working in the city at the time, and I went to the doctor, and he goes, "Oh, it's got to be stress. It's got to be stress." I said, "It's not stress." I said, "I know my body." I said, "I'm having a hard time swallowing food." And he goes, "Well, you know what? I'll send you here to get a barium swallow." Mm-hmm. And we did the barium swallow, and that's when they found a lump there.
That's where they found it. So the test. So you had to become your own advocate in order to push this.
Right. Exactly.
Oh. And the symptoms were not swallowing. You had some bleeding, you said, right?
Yeah, I had bleeding too. So, and just, I knew my body and something was wrong.
So go with our instincts by all means. Now you were treated at Sloan Kettering.
Exactly.
Okay, and what did they do for you there?
I was on experimental treatment because this was a cancer that a lot of people survive, and they wanted to do something different with me. And I was 28 years old at the time.
You're 28 years old. What went through your mind? Do you remember? I mean, I remember being so young, diagnosed with breast cancer, thinking, well, I could beat it, but then by the same token, also relieved because I knew there was something wrong with my body and I wanted help. What do you remember?
I wanted to conquer the world, and this was a devastating blow.
Okay, this was something that just...
Right. And then we had to figure out a positive thing, a solution to the situation.
Who helped you, or what helped you?
My wife helped me a lot.
In what way?
Being positive, trying to find things for me, researching doctors, researching things.
So you are
getting
reaching
connections.
out for help,
right?
And look at the help that you got.
Right, and it was great. And I don't forget about anything. And I always try to give back to the hospital, to the same cancer people.
And how so? What do you do?
I volunteer my work as photography in shows and cancer fundraisers. I go to Philly every year and shoot a show, and they hold half the show for me as a cancer survivor.
That's
and
amazing.
giving back, which is
And
pretty
you were
cool.
playing football during the treatment, and then you had some reactions,
Right.
and went back for more treatment.
Right.
But you didn't give up.
No.
And you had Barbara to thank for that. That's
Right.
your wife.
Right, Barbara's
and
my wife.
also some strength from within you. Where did that come from? What do you think?
Never giving up. Always.
Here we are again. That never give up.
Right.
That's extraordinary. What is your advice to others who might be watching this who say, I'm a little nervous. It may not be that type of cancer. What do I do? Where do you know?
Never give up. Support groups. People who
Support groups.
never give up on you.
Was this a defining moment in your life, the defining moment, or not?
How to re-look and reshape my life? Yes.
It was.
Yes.
It was time to take stock and look and see who you are.
Right. And making sure
Look in the mirror and see what that person
making
is.
sure every day counts for what I ever do.
I wonder if
So
that's
there's
where
no
your-
regrets later.
Was that your quote, where that came from?
Right.
No regrets later. Live each day and enjoy your life.
Exactly.
Oh, I love that. And I want to know too, it's a learning experience. So, Dennis, what did you learn about yourself during this?
My weakest points in life and my strongest points. And
I'm waiting. I might be delving too personally, but you learned what your strengths and weaknesses are.
right.
What advice would you give someone else? What's the
For
best piece of advice you were given that would help somebody else when maybe sitting here thinking, I don't know if I can do this?
you have to do it.
You have,
It's
have to
you.
do it.
No one
human
else is
nature.
living your life. You have to do this.
There does come that one moment when you are alone in that.
Right.
Whether you be in the hospital or at home at night alone.
Right.
But there does become that one moment where you have to pick yourself up and you have to do it. There's someone you met had a very big impact upon you. When you met her, it was emotional, but it was also beautiful. Talking about beautiful Derina Wilson.
Derina was special. It's like I've been following her on Facebook, and we've been like collaborating back and forth, and finally we got together and we said, let's do a shoot. And little behold, she is a cancer survivor also, and I'm a cancer survivor, and me as a photographer is my first professional photo shoot with a cancer survivor, and it really meant a lot to me. And I just wanted to make sure I really got a great picture and great work with her, and make sure I got every detail with her to make sure I don't forget this, and she won't forget a shoot like this either.
I don't think anybody will forget this. This is a beautiful photograph and somebody that could share something with you and understand it. That when I was diagnosed, I had students and parents who thought they could catch cancer from me.
Wow, I believe that.
Oh, yes.
And when
Yes,
I
I
had
had to
cancer,
reassure
people, you know who your friends are. They run away from you. They're afraid to talk to you.
You know what it is? I
And
don't
you have
even
to
know.
stay strong.
I know we were talking about this before. I don't even know if it's that they're running away because they're not your friends. I think that there's a fear. Many people are still afraid of that word.
They don't know what to
And
say.
when they don't know what to say, and what I learned, my husband had pancreatic cancer and died in my arms. And what I learned is that sometimes you don't have to say anything. Just sit there and just be there. Be that rock for that person.
Right.
Just be there. Make sure that person is as comfortable as a person can be. But I don't think it's because they don't like us anymore. They're thinking that if they associate with you, they might catch it.
Right.
It's fear. It's not anger, right?
It's exactly what you said.
It's fear. I really believe that. And that's why shows like this are so important, because we want to get the word out there. You know, no matter what you're being told, you must get to the doctor. You have to find out what it is, and then you can take it from there
Right.
and decide what it is you want to do. What's next for you? Where's Dennis going to be next? What's happening?
I live every day, day by day. And I would just pack up my bags tomorrow and go away somewhere.
There you are.
So
Am I going to
don't-
see you?
I
I'm
don't-
hoping Fashion Week. I hope you photograph us in February.
Well, we're talking about February Fashion Week this year, so we'll see what happens. Cross our fingers. Hopefully everything's going good. So,
And where can people find you?
on Facebook, Instagram, just Dennis Madigan. You just see my picture and away you go.
Any last words?
Just live every day, day by day, and enjoy life.
I love
Find a
that.
solution.
I think that's the best piece of advice. I want to thank you, Dennis Madigan, and thank you so much. I think your words are going to help somebody out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.